Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. Today we're talking about The Disaster Artist. The film based on the book, also called The Disaster Artist, from one of the co-stars of the movie The Room by Tommy Wiseau. It's kind of a behind-the-scenes autobiography of the making of The Room and what the actor went through and what he experienced on the set and working with Tommy Wiseau. So, first of all, whether you like or hate The Room, whether you like it for the comedic value, whether you like it as an actual movie, whether you hate it because of the popularity it's getting or whatever, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But one thing I will say is I give respect to Tommy Wiseau. And the reason I say that is because the guy has basically owned what would have otherwise been a flop and turned it into something other than an embarrassing stain on his resume or whatever you want to call it. He had a dream of being an actor, wasn't working out for him, he couldn't get hired by anybody, whatever. Decided to make his own movie, paid for it himself out of whatever money he had from wherever he gets it. Put in all the work and all the effort. Was he difficult to work with? According to this, yes. But he did what he did, and he paid to put it out in the theaters himself, keep it there, advertise for it. He paid for all that himself. And when the movie bombed, he was a little disheartened by it, but eventually he realized that people liked the film because of how bad it was. And there's some people out there who have done the same thing, but they can't grasp that why people like it is because it's bad. They think people just like the film because it's a different generation. Now they understand what they were trying to do. Tommy gets that it was a bad film. It didn't come out the way it was supposed to, but through some miracle, it was one of those movies that was so bad that it turned out to be good and people liked it, and it developed a cult following, and Tommy's accepting of that. He's into the joke. He laughs at it now. He probably still doesn't fully appreciate it because this was, his dream of something to do. But he kind of gets that it wasn't the greatest thing, but I'm still making money off of it, so whatever, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, he had a dream and he went for it, and I'm never going to be one to tell someone not to follow their dreams. So you made your dream come true. It didn't work out at first, but you found your audience and you made your money back plus some. So, congratulations. I only wish that I had the resources to make that happen for myself. But all that aside, what did I think of this film? It was interesting. I have seen The Room a couple different times. I've seen the Riff Tracks version. I've seen a couple other riff style things on it from other people. And I've watched it just as the movie itself. And the thing is, despite all the wackiness of it that goes on, if it was reworked a little bit, reshot a little bit, re-edited, there could be a salvageable movie there that would actually be decent. Most of the actors in The Room weren't that bad. Occasionally they seem a little wooden. Sometimes things would happen that never were brought back, like the mom having breast cancer thing, which they actually point out in this movie. It never comes back. But had that been reworked a little bit, this movie could have been a lot better than people give it credit for. But that's my view of The Room. And we're talking about The Disaster Artist. So this movie gives you a good insight to The Room and who Tommy Wiseau is, where he comes from, how he got involved with Greg, who is the author of the book and co-star of The Room. He plays Oh Hi Mark. And it's just kind of their whole adventure together of how they got from place to place. And the one thing I took away from this movie is, despite all the problems they went through, the one thing Tommy always did was encourage Greg. Greg approached him, he's like, hey, we were in this acting class together, and how do you do that? How do you just let go and, not care what people think? And Tommy has him do a line reading with him in the middle of a restaurant, and, Greg's kind of, sheepish and shy because he doesn't want to make a scene in the restaurant. And Tommy's like, who gives a fuck what these people think? And just starts being loud and obnoxious and gets Greg to do it too. And they do this scene together. And he's like, there, that wasn't so bad, was it? And everyone's kind of looking at him. And, Tommy's like, yeah, you got to see that for free. Congratulations. And he's kind of being a dick to the audience. But he's making a point to Greg is, don't be afraid to just open up and do what you have to do to get by. And it kind of relates back to that when Greg has his first scene in The Room. He kind of retreats into himself again, and Tommy's like, hey, what are you doing? Remember the restaurant, open up, be that person. And he does it, and everyone's like, wow, that was a good performance. And the thing is, you can look at The Room and say, well, it wasn't that great of a performance. It kind of comes out of nowhere. But that's the script that was written. That was the direction he was given to do. So that aside, his acting worked. And that's kind of shown, again, throughout the movie. Another point, Greg is showing Tommy the movie Rebel Without a Cause starring James Dean. And Tommy's like, oh, wow, this is amazing. The way Dean acts is amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And Greg says, yeah, I always kind of wanted to go visit the site where he crashed and died, and kind of pay my respects to him because he kind of inspired me to, want to be an actor. Tommy's like, well, let's go. And he goes, what, it's like 300 miles away from here. He goes, so, do you got anything to do tomorrow? Let's go. So Greg's like, okay, screw it, let's go. And they drive down and visit the site, and it's something Greg probably would have never done in his life had Tommy not said, let's go. He is always like, oh, I want to do this someday. Well, when is that someday going to be? It's like, you keep saying you want to do it someday, but you're going to keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and next thing you know, you're going to be 80 years old and be like, I always wanted to do that, and I just never got around to it. He's like, so screw it. What do you got going on right now that you can't just get in the car and go? So then they're talking about their dream of being an actor, and Greg's like, man, we should just go out to LA and see what happens. And Tommy's like, all right, let's go. And Greg's like, what are you talking about? It's costs a lot of money. We don't have the money to do that. And Tommy's like, I got a place out there. We can stay there. And he's like, wait, you got a place in California and one in wherever they were, I think New York or somewhere, I don't remember. He goes, yeah, don't worry about it. It's covered. And you kind of get an idea of where Greg's negativity comes from, and it's everyone around him. And it's something I can relate to because I've gotten a lot of this in my life too, where everyone tells you that your ideas and your dreams are kind of stupid and you're never going to mount to anything, and why take the risk and all this. And it's just because what have they done to live out their dreams? They took a safe road, and they want you to take a safe road rather than taking a chance. And you see this from Greg's mother when he goes, oh, we're going to Los Angeles, I'm going to try and be an actor. And she's like, no, you're going to fail. You're going to, it's not going to work out for you, and then what? You barely know this guy that you're going to Los Angeles with. Who is he? How, where did he come from? Where does he get this money? Blah, blah, blah. And Greg's kind of like, Ma, I'm going to do it. Don't worry. If it doesn't work out, I'll come back. And gets in the car and leaves. And even then, once they're out in L.A., he kind of gets the same thing. He gets taken on by an agent, but then the agent doesn't give him any work, and he's just kind of being downtrodden because he thinks that he's not good enough. But then Tommy's like, screw it, let's make our own movie, and you're going to be the star. So then Greg's kind of into that, and then he meets this girl at the bar one night, and they kind of hit it off. She becomes his girlfriend, and it kind of shows Tommy's got a little bit of jealousy there, but again, when you know that The Room is something that actually happened in Tommy's life, it kind of makes sense that he sees his now best friend taking interest in a girl, and where's that going to leave him as the third wheel, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of get a feel for Tommy's jealousy, even though you can kind of understand it, but you're kind of like, dude, you're being a little over the top, just relax. But that's who Tommy was. He's over the top. So Greg and this girl have this relationship, and even she's negative towards him. She's like, oh, well, how's the auditions going? He goes, oh, I've been on a couple, but I haven't really gotten any parts. She goes, oh, what about the thing you're doing with Tommy? He goes, oh, that's going real good. We're about halfway through, whatever. And she goes, well, what happens if it turns out to not be good? Because everyone thinks it's not going to be good. Is it something you can take off your resume? And it's just like, you're supposed to be his girlfriend. You're supposed to be supporting anything he does and trying to encourage him to move forward. You should be encouraging him to make this film. It's like, you're telling him to back out of it and don't even try, but at the same time, he's not getting any other offers. Why not be like, hey, you're not getting any other offers, this is there. Just try and make it the best you can. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But no, everyone's like, oh, this movie's going to flop, you shouldn't have anything to do with it. And it gets to the point where he gets so tired of the naysaying that he actually turns down what could be a decent role in Malcolm in the Middle to finish doing this movie with Tommy. He asked Tommy for the extra day to do it. Tommy doesn't want to give it to him because he's like, well, if you start doing too much other stuff, where does that leave us? So Tommy kind of plays the guilt card towards him too, and then his girlfriend's kind of like, well, you need to decide which is more important, me or Tommy. And he just kind of walks away from her and is just like, Tommy's been there for me, and it kind of makes sense, even though it kind of seems like at times Tommy has him a bit brainwashed, but at the same time you can see Greg's point of view. It's like, yeah, I can go do this one role in Malcolm in the Middle, make a few bucks off of it, and then what? Now I'm back to where I started, and now I'm not in Tommy's movie anymore because I fucked him over, or I can do Tommy's movie, finish out what I started, and see where it goes from there. And that's what he does. And his girlfriend can't handle it, and they end up splitting up because of it. And it's like he made the right decision of splitting up with her to begin with, because why have that negative element in your life? You're doing what you want to do. You may not be having fun doing it, but you're committed to it. You're trying to finish it out. And for someone to tell you, oh, you should just quit, that's what he's heard his whole life is you should just quit. You should just give up. You're not a talented actor. You're not this. You're not that. And he's finally just tired of it. So he goes on and finishes the film. So him and Tommy end up having a falling out, but there's enough of the film finished that they can edit it together and make a movie out of it. So a couple months goes by, and Greg's got a few new auditions. He's got a new agent, whatever. Things are starting to pick up for him a little bit, but it's still not quite where he expected his life to be. And then he gets the invitation to the premiere, and at first he's not going to go, and then he sees the billboard advertising the movie, and he's like, oh my god, he's actually putting this thing out, whatever. And then he kind of becomes the naysayer for a bit, and then Tommy comes and talks to him, and he's like, look, regardless of what happened between you and me, whether we're friends anymore or not, this was partly your idea. We did this together. It was supposed to be our thing. It's finished. I just want you to see it through, and see the finished product that we both put our hearts and minds into. So Greg eventually goes to the premiere with Tommy, and they're watching the movie, and at first it's just getting no reaction at all. And then it starts to get a reaction, and Greg's starting to kind of enjoy watching it. And then Tommy is just like heartbroken that everyone's laughing at the movie because he wanted to be a dramatic piece, and it's basically a comedy. And he gets up and walks out, and Greg comes out, he's like, what's going on? Why'd you leave? He goes, everyone hates it. Listen to them. And he goes, yeah, listen to them, Tommy. They're all laughing. They're having a good time. Yeah, maybe it's not what we intended to make, but there it is. That's ours. No one can take that away from us. And he kind of gives Tommy his own advice back to him. It's like, own what you own, They may be laughing at it, and you may have meant it to be more of a serious drama, but they're loving this film. You can't deny that. You have to take that away from it, that people are enjoying this one way or another. So even though box office-wise it's a flop, it's a success because people are watching this. And since it's grown in its cult following, that's proceeded even more, and it seems like Tommy's gotten that. And this film overall is just a nice look into the whole concept of if you have one person encouraging you and driving you, telling you to ignore all the naysayers, who knows what you can do in your life, but you're never going to know unless you take the chance. And like I said, I've had a lot of naysayers in my life telling me that, oh, an idea I had was stupid, or, oh, you're never going to do that for a living, that's a dream, whatever. You need to focus on the real world, worry about getting a real job, blah, blah, blah. And I still hear it to this day. So this movie kind of resonates with me in maybe a different way that it resonates with other people. But if you've ever had that type of environment growing up, or even now, watch this movie. Maybe it'll inspire you to just kind of screw everyone else. I'm going to do what I want to do, which is overall what Tommy Wiseau has taught us over the years. So again, hats off to Tommy Wiseau. You're inspirational, maybe a little off the wall, but you got there in the end, and you did something you want to do, and you made it work. And even though it didn't turn out the way you envisioned it, it turned into something, and you're owning it. So again, hats off to Tommy. And hats off to Greg for following your dream and not letting the negative influences of your life keep you down. So what would I give this as far as a star rating? Honestly, I'm going to give this one a 3.5. It's basically your kind of average middle-of-the-road movie. It's a documentary type of piece. Not really documentary, but looking into what happened behind the scenes making this movie, who these characters were in real life and on set. And from that aspect, it's just kind of an average thing. But the overall concept of the way Tommy and Greg's relationship was, it touched me personally in a way, and I get a little bit more appreciation out of it than other people might just from that, and that's why it gets a little bit higher rating than just a standard 3. So I give it a 3.5. And that's even overlooking the fact that it starred James Franco, who I'm sure most people who've watched any of my reviews know I can't stand James Franco as an actor. But he worked here. He pulls off Tommy really well, and it seems like he actually gave a damn about this role versus some of the other stuff that he just kind of sleepwalks through because he doesn't really give a shit. He actually put some effort into this one, and I appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is the amount of idiots coming out of the theater who've never seen The Room and went to see this movie anyway, and hearing them come out of the theater like, oh man, now that I watched that, I kind of want to watch The Room and see what it's actually about. It's like, if you didn't watch The Room, why the fuck are you here watching this? But, that's just a personal gripe. So yeah, enough rambling. That's it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down in the description. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you get notifications every time I post new content. Until next time, I'll see you after the credits.